So good to see you. Thank you all for being here. 8 years ago at GreenBiz 17, 3 weeks after a US presidential inauguration, I stood on this very stage and proclaimed that Donald Trump is sustainability's stress test. It was a black swan moment, low probability, high impact that most people didn't see coming and we were not prepared for. It was a moment of truth for all of us. And we muddled through. Yeah, we lost precious time. There were some regulatory rollbacks. We pulled out of the Paris Agreement. But many of your companies said, we are still in. And many more announced net zero and other impressive commitments. Well, here we are 8 years later, 3 weeks after a presidential inauguration, and I think that stress test has been dialed up to 11, or maybe it's 47. I don't think even those who expected this electoral outcome were ready for this moment. This moment is a collision of economic, technological, environmental, political, and societal forces that are all crashing into one another and shifting at the same time, leading to outcomes that we're just beginning to see, let alone understand. We're beyond the point where past is prologue, where we can reasonably expect that tomorrow will look somewhat like today. It's a fascinating, volatile, and absolutely terrifying time. As for all of us, well, we used to be the cool kids working for a better world, making good progress, getting good stories for our companies to tell, and still managing to work largely under the radar. I don't know that any of that's true anymore. Today, we're being scrutinized from pretty much everybody. We're getting pushback from across the political spectrum. Many of your companies are tapping the brakes on commitments that you made not that long ago. And even companies that aren't tapping the brakes on those commitments are just not talking about them so much. The word climate is being weaponized, much like DEI and ESG have been very successfully. Environmental justice is right behind that. The word sustainability could be next. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that our profession is under attack. And it's having a toll. When I did a survey last December of sustainability professionals on LinkedIn, fully, a third of you said that you were stressed out or burned out, thinking of changing careers, or maybe even retiring early. So this is a fascinating moment for all of us. There's been plenty of progress. Many of your companies have made announcements of commitments and achievements that are truly exemplary. Some of you have shown that you can actually reduce emissions while growing revenue. Impressive stuff. But if we're being honest with ourselves and with one another, we have to acknowledge that our progress is not meeting the moment. The best and brightest of you have been working for years, decades in some cases, to make the world a cleaner, fairer place. And yet, for most people, the world is not cleaner and it's not getting fairer. I'll be blunt. Even the leaders in this room are being what I would call aggressively incremental. Right? Lots and lots of tweaks, doing less bad, as the saying goes. Impressive things, but not meeting at the scale, scope, and speed we need to take on the challenges in this moment. So, how do we meet the moment? I'm not going to ask you to work harder. I think you all are working really damn hard. And I'm not going to ask you to work smarter. In this room are some of the smartest people I know. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that this isn't anyone's fault. It's everyone's fault. all of us, our families, our communities, the companies we work for, their customers, their suppliers, their investors, our political leaders, our policymakers, and of course, the economic systems in which we all toil. Changing that economic system is a very heavy lift, and I'm pretty sure it's in none of your job descriptions. Still, we owe it to our companies and our collective futures to take a clear-eyed look at where we are in this moment and to rethink the things that probably need to change. We need to optimize for impact and unlocking increasingly bigger goals and understanding what it takes to reach them. We need to ask bigger questions, even if they're not in your remit. For example, what would it take for our company to make a difference in unsustainable systems of production and consumption? We need to focus on business value, not business virtue, and to ensure that the outcomes we're working for are communicated to be tangible benefits for everyday citizens. We may even need to make management a bit uncomfortable by helping them truly understand the gravity of the moment and the risk that their companies face. The paradox is this: we need to act with urgency, but also with the understanding that this is hard, long-term, intergenerational work. Sort of like the cathedral builders of old, we're working and building on the foundation of a future that many of us won't live to see. So you're feeling a little anxious, a little scared, a little apprehensive? That's okay. We don't stop this work because it gets hard. This work has always faced resistance, always faced pushback. Our work has always been hard. So where do we look for solutions? Well, one place we might look to is to nature. I recently asked my friends Janine Benyus and Beth Ratner, two of the leading lights in biomimicry, how does nature respond when it meets resistance? And as always, I was blown away, gobsmacked by understanding, getting a glimpse of some of nature's brilliance. So I thought I'd share some of that with you. So there's something called phenotypic plasticity, which is the ability of an organism to change its physical characteristics without changing its DNA. So some critters change colors in order so they blend in with their surroundings. A leaf might change its shape in the shade to optimize photosynthesis. Lots and lots of examples. So my question is, what abilities and characteristics can you turn on, develop, or adapt to make them stronger or more resilient in the face of pushback? And there's something called the stress-free hypothesis, which is a concept in ecology that predicts how plant communities and trees will interact when they face stress and resistance. You'd think that they would compete for resources, but actually they don't. They collaborate and cooperate using their underground mycelium networks to form symbiotic relationships to share nutrients and even warn each other about impending risks. So, what are the symbiotic relationships that will accelerate your work in an era of political and economic stress? And then there's the concept that nature tends to succeed by pulling rather than pushing, by actually seducing both its friends and foes to act in certain ways. So a plant may bring on vibrant hues or emit aromatic scents to both repel herbivores and attract pollinators, right? So how can we make sustainability irresistible to even our fiercest critics, or trick them into our political predators to look elsewhere for nourishment? I know this all seems complicated and hard. It doesn't have to be. The writer Annie Lamott recently wrote about a warhorse and a sparrow. So warhorse comes upon this sparrow in the clearing, lying on its back, eyes squinched tight, seemingly pushing up as hard as it can. And it asks the sparrow, "What are you doing?" The sparrow says, "I'm trying to hold back the darkness." And the warhorse says, "That's ridiculous. What do you weigh, about an ounce?" And the sparrow says, "Well, one does what one can." We are all pushing against vast forces of darkness. And while we may feel like tiny sparrows at times, there is no higher calling than doing what one can. Now, that doesn't mean that performative or half-hearted or futile gestures are important. Of course, they're not. So the question is, what can one do? And given all the possibilities, am I doing enough of the right things? But in the end, I think it's important that we remember why we came to sustainability in the first place. Yes, we wanted to make the world a better place, but what's your second reason? There's a good chance that it's about problem solving. Turns out that sustainability professionals are, as a species, great problem solvers and love doing it. That's from a survey that my friend Solitaire Townsend did not long ago. It turns out that we find the climate crisis intellectually stimulating, probably the most complex and intellectually challenging problem that humanity's ever faced. But also, let's go back to that first reason. Oh, by the way, clearly, as you can see here, we ain't in it for the money. But let's go back to that first reason, that most of you came to this because you wanted to not just make a living, but make a difference, to make a big difference in the world and in the lives of people and other creatures, particularly the most vulnerable. In other words, to hold back the darkness. I think we need to hold on to those moments, this purpose, passion, problem solving that we all bring to this profession, this great community. But in the end, how lucky are we that we get to do this work? That at the end of a day, a week, a year, a career, we get to say, I was part of the solution. I made a difference. I showed up. I got to help hold back the darkness. So, are you with me? Can we make management uncomfortable? Can we make the difference? Can we step up and be courageous? I want to say, when you hear me, I want to hear you say, yes, I am. Are you with me? Yes, I am. Oh, that was good, but I want to do one more time. Yes? All right, one more time. And this time, I want them to be able to hear you at, I don't know, Mar-a-Lago. Ready? Are you with me? Yes, I am. Of course you are, because that's how we roll in sustainability. And with that, my friends, welcome to GreenBiz 25.